Well, hello neighbors. I'm John, your whiskey neighbor. Welcome to this week's review. Today I'm going to take a look at another in the Jim Beam small batch bourbon series. This will be a look at Baker's Kentucky Straight Bourbon. See you after the break. All right, thanks for joining me today for this short look at Baker's Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. As I said in the intro, Jim Beam puts out four consistent, regular expressions of small batch bourbon. We've looked together at Booker's. This is Baker's. I have talked about, but not done its own real review, the Knob Creek single barrel, and then Basil Hayden. So I will take a look at all four and give you my thoughts. So with Baker's, as I understand, Baker's is named after Baker Beam, which is the grand nephew of Jim Beam. I don't know more about how it was created. Like I did know a little bit more about how Booker's was shared and whatnot. This one does carry a consistent age stamp. It mentions right on it that it's aged for 7 years. It's another higher proof bourbon, so it's 107 proof or 53.5% alcohol by volume. I don't know about the mash bill in here. I should say this particular one is batch number B90001. I haven't had enough Bakers to distinguish between batch numbers, but just thought I'd share it for any of you out there that have had different batches. It does say right on the back sour mash whiskey, which I didn't know that Jim Beam does that. Just for information's sake, because I like to give out a little bit of knowledge to those that are exploring whiskey, bourbon, scotch, and otherwise. Sour mash, so part of the process of creating a nice spirit like this is to, bring together your grains. In the U.S., usually they make a mash bill. So it's, as a bourbon, it's going to have to be at least 51% corn. I have looked this one up and I have forgotten now what it is. But it's likely high corn, probably somewhere in the 70s. And then a bit of rye, somewhere around 13%. And then the balance in barley. So they'll, grind that up so that you open up the sugars or whatnot, and then you put it in a mashing tub, and then if it's malted barley, that'll have natural enzymes that'll start working those sugars, and then the yeast is added, and it can work on those sugars. At any rate, the point is, at some point, that mash is done. It's given up all of the good alcohols that we want. And the liquid carries on, and the solids are usually squeezed out and sold as feed for animals or something like that. And sour mash has nothing to do with the sourness of taste or anything like that. What it is at the end of that process, if you take a little bit of that spent mash, it is higher in acids, and you put it in the next mash to sort of start it. I think the original process was to reduce unwanted bacteria, because you really just want the yeast growing in that nice warmed porridge. You don't want bacteria growing because that can spoil the taste. And I think originally bringing back some of that higher acids into the new mash would act to kill bacteria. That's my understanding from reading that I've done. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. Back to the taste. So this is Baker's 7-year bourbon. When I give it to the nose, I poured it a little while ago. When I first poured it, I actually was surprised at the alcohol bloom that came off it. I mean, I shouldn't be. 53.5% is pretty strong, but I actually found it to be almost more alcohol than the Booker's that I have, which is even higher percent yet. But it's that part of the alcohol's gone away. Just letting it sit here for a few minutes. Now I get actually kind of a fruity nose. For me, almost like a cherry. Maybe a little bit of orange. A little bit of oak. But really just a the sugar is high, but more like vanilla. Well, maybe toffee. And some fruit. Definitely some fruit. But more almost like it's funny, it's 7 years old, it's not youthful, but almost like a youthful orange or maybe a red cherry. Yeah, nice nose. After you've let it sit. Definitely when I first poured it, I was right away, oh, quite a lot of alcohol. But now the nose has evolved and it's quite nice. Let's give it a sip. So that is, I took a small sip because it's actually my first sip of whiskey today. And so I needed to let my tongue kind of wake up to that. But right away, it had some nice toffee and high sugar, a little more vanilla, less deep burnt caramel, but tasty. Tasty by that I mean it excited the mouth just right away. Fairly silky actually too. I wonder if there's a nut in there. So, second sip is always for me a way to get at the second layer flavor, right? The first layer was higher sugars, the candy, toffee. Second sip, I think now you're getting the interplay of finish. And the finish here is, I can now finally catch a little bit of oak, a little bit of wood in there. Not as woody as I'd expect. Okay, there came a little bit. I've made mention before that if I drink more of this, the wood starts to let itself known. With bourbon, I do almost all bourbon because it's aged in a new toasted or charred white oak barrel. It gives strong, just genuine wood notes, not hints of that, not just vanillas from previous caskings or whatnot. This is clearly been settled in wood, and now the longer I talk, actually the finish is still coming back, and it's a very nice finish. There is a bitterness that I find in the second, and I'll give a quick third sip. Yep, that I find with Bakers that I don't find with Bookers. Not that this is a straight comparison of that yet, but I find the small sips are everything I want in a bourbon. Small sips are giving me that high sugars, a little bit of fruits, but then they're in that, they're nice and silky on the tongue, spicy here because the alcohol, 53.5%. The finish, because now I'm breathing it, is now woody. It's a great experience. For me though, if I take a big chewier sip of Baker's, I don't know if it's because the alcohol is so high, it makes itself known, but there's a little bit of bitterness, a little bit of astringency that I find in this bourbon. And I found that when I watered it down, I should have had some water out here too. The water still did bring out a bit more sweetness, which I appreciated. It didn't really get rid of that bitterness. So if I'm going to have an evening enjoying Baker's, and it's a great bourbon, I like small sips, just little bits to actually kind of get lost in my tongue. Or if I've got something to eat with it, a snack where the bourbon is powerful enough to clean that out of your palate. So I like Baker's, but just on its own, especially if I drink my way through this glass and it's a long night, I'll maybe have another. Or if I take a pretty big hit at once, there's something in Baker's that is just a little bit astringent, a little bit bitter that I don't find in some other higher proof bourbons. Having said that, it's in my opinion kind of overlooked. It does go on sale in my neck of the woods. I got this for a phenomenal price, which you won't be able to get. I got it on clearance actually, which is, I should have bought more than one bottle. But it sits around the $50 mark in my neck of the woods. That's 50 Canadian. And I think because it's higher proof and because it has that nice interplay, I could even say there's almost a little bit of a nuttiness in it. Little bit of orange maybe. I'm getting cherry today. It's got enough layers, and with the higher proof, I think it's a good experience. it is a little rough, which is surprising for its 7 years. And at that price, if you're new to bourbon, I wouldn't chase it down. I would try some other more approachable, half the price bourbons. You know, go out in my neck of the woods, get Buffalo Trace, saw it on sale for $29 yesterday. And I thought, you know, have a bottle of that first if you're brand new to bourbon. Having said that, you're looking to expand your range. It's quite nice, and I enjoy it, and has a nice layered range of flavor, especially for taking small sips. I don't know why. If I take too much, that it gets bitter. I don't know why, but for me it does. So a star value of this, you know, I really, really enjoy high proof bourbons. They're tasty. They hold up well to cheese, which is my favorite snack with whiskey. It's hard not to give this at least 4 stars. It's just a great bourbon. I could probably give it more. And if I change my rating to out of 10, or if I go to my 100 scale, this is a 90, kind of a 90 points type whiskey. So I suppose that's 4.5 stars. And I would be okay with that. It's 4.5. It's just a solid bourbon. Anyways, guys, thanks for dropping in. I hope you've appreciated my thoughts on Baker's. Let me know what you think. I haven't heard enough about this online, so I hope other reviewers pick up a bottle and give their thoughts. I've sure heard a lot more about Booker's and even Basil Hayden than Baker's. It feels like the, less popular cousin, but you know, it's nice. The wax I had to really clean off. It was so brittle. I was worried it was going to get back in the bottle, but it looks like a nice wine bottle dipped in wax, and with the higher proof, I think this is a solid purchase if you're looking to for a finer bourbon, something that you're wanting to appreciate. Thanks again. Comments, let me know where I've gone wrong, or maybe what I've done right. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe. I think it's a great community. Thanks so much. You guys take care.